Hello, my name is Annedien, and today I'm working on the Minnow Swimsuit from Sofiona Designs. I'm just going to walk you through a couple of the steps for the back construction of the scoop and attaching the back band as well. I'm going to be starting from step 7. So as you can see, I already have my main and lining side pieces attached to my bottom. And then I also already attached with right sides together my lining and my main around the scoop. So now moving to step 8, I added elastic in the scoop. So in the instructions it tells you to pin your elastic to the tops and then find the middle of your fabric and the middle of your elastic down here, pin that, and then you're going to want to pin it all the way around the curve. If you are like me, sometimes I'm lazy with my pinning and I don't like to do it. This is one of those moments where it is a good idea to make sure you're really pinning it in place, because the more you stretch the elastic or don't have it sitting in the right spot, the more it's going to look funny when you are finished. So I zigzag this on, so that's done. So my next step would be to turn it right side out. And my next step is to top stitch in here. So you will see at the top of the tutorial there's a link you can follow to a video that gives some really good tips on sewing with swim elastic. Mainly the biggest tip on there is just how to make sure that this curve is going to lay flat when you're finished and not be sticking out. So the important thing to do there, when you are feeding your material through the machine and top stitching this, you're going to want to follow the natural curve of the fabric as you're feeding it through. What you're not going to want to do is pull it like this and stretch it as you're sewing it. You're not going to want to do that, because when you are finished, your edge will end up looking like this and flipping out in this way. So to avoid that, you really just want to follow the curve of the fabric as best as you can and feed it through the machine in that way. Okay, I finished top stitching my scoop here. So now we are ready to move on to step 11, where we're attaching the back band. So here are my back band pieces, my lining and my main. And as you can see, I've transferred all the markings. So let's go ahead and put that together then. So this is my right side up of my lining. I want my right side of my lining to be against the right side of my lining of my suit that I have here already. So these notches on the straight edge are where the ends of my scoop are going to be attached. And then on top of this will go our back main, which is going also right sides together with the back of the swimsuit. So you're going to be sewing one straight line across here, catching the ends of the scoop here in the right spot. Now this is very important that you have this perfectly lined up to the notches. Reason being, if you are off center with these, once you have your swimsuit on the little person that will be wearing it, if you're not completely centered to the band, and for that matter the back of the body, this is going to sit funny, or you're going to have weird curves and things going on in here. So this is a very essential part to make sure that you're really lining it up correctly. So you can use Wonder Tape if you want to just secure it down and make sure it's not going to shift on you while you're sewing. You could throw a basting stitch in there. Personally, I am a big fan of the glue stick, so what I will be doing is just gluing this really well and then attaching that to my lining where it needs to go and adding some more glue onto the top. I'm putting my main on where it needs to go, and then I'm going to just throw a clip on there and let the glue dry for a few minutes, and then it will stay very nicely secure there. Again, this is just my personal preference, how I like to do it. You basically just have to do whatever you have to do to make sure that this doesn't shift on you while you're sewing. Okay, I've sewed my 2 pieces of my back band together. So this is my lining, my main. As you can see, I now have them sewn right sides together with the bottom of the swimsuit wedged in between. So now we're on to step 12, where we're going to be attaching a piece of elastic into the bottom of the back band where the scoop is. So in the instructions it says you need to attach it 1/4 of an inch past where your notches are. Now when I sewed it, my marks from before were trimmed off. So I just went and measured new marks based off where the edge of my scoop is attached, just because I know that that was exactly lined up with the notch that used to be there. So you can see I made new marks on my band here, 1/4 of an inch from the edge of the scoop from the bottom, and that's my new mark that I'm going to be lining my elastic piece up to. So I'm just going to go ahead and pin this. And then on this side, and then I'm also just going to stretch it a little bit here to where the fabric is sitting normally again, and then I'm just going to add an extra pin in there just to be sure that it's all going to get stretched out. Okay. So now how you're going to sew this is with a zigzag stitch, but only onto the seam. So you're not going to want to catch your lining or your main in this, you're just sewing the elastic onto your seam. Once you've done that, so I'm just going to go through this as if I had my elastic already attached. Once you're done that, you're going to be understitching your lining onto your seam. So imagine that you have your elastic sewed onto this section here. If you flip it over, what you're going to do is zigzag your lining onto your seam where your elastic is attached then, from the same spot that you had before. Okay, what you're looking at here is step 13. So you can see from my previous step that I have my lining now understitched to my elastic and my seam. And then now I'm ready for this part. So the first part of this is to attach your straps where they need to be. So on the top of that back band you have your notches. This one right here by itself is my short strap. This one here is my long strap that earlier in the tutorial you were told to cut at an angle. And then right beside that is my optional second shoulder strap. Since I am doing that option, then you just line that up beside there. I just put a small basting stitch in there so these straps are not going to go anywhere while I'm sewing. So now you're going to want to make sure that your back band is laying the lining and the main with the right side up and spread apart like this. Then what you're going to do is take your bottom of your suit, lining and main, and you're just going to roll it up. And roll your straps in there with it, so just kind of in a nice little bundle to about here. Then you're going to take your lining, pull it over your roll, and attach it to your main. So because I have the markings also transferred onto my lining piece, I now know that these marks also need to line up where my straps are, and that just gives a good indication kind of where your lining should be pinned together to your main fabric. So I'm going to pin all this so that it's all where it should be together. Then I'm going to sew it. Okay, you can see now that I've sewed my top, I've sewed my elastic on. So now I can just pull all this apart to the right side, and you will see that this all came together very nicely. So from here on you will be top stitching this seam up here, and then you can continue on with the rest of the construction of the suit.